This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Welcome to News 9 and you are watching On Point with me. Today, we have one on point. We look at how India is preparing for a big military operation in its war against terror. And now let's take a quick look at the headlines. Putin announces Ukraine ceasefire. Russian president makes surprise 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine between May 8th and 10th. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh briefs Prime Minister Modi on Pahalgam defense preparedness. Union Jal Shakti Minister C.R. Patil challenges Bilawal Bhutto Zardari over remark, dares him to come to India. India-France seal deal for 26 Rafale M jets for the Navy. BJP slams Congress leaders, accuses Siddaramaiah of echoing Pakistan on Pahalgam attack remarks. Special NIA court sends 2611 plotter Tahawwur Rana to 12-day remand. After steps against Pakistan, Northeast seeks similar move against Bangladesh. After Senthil Balaji's exit from Tamil Nadu cabinet, Supreme Court closes plea to recall his bail order. Death toll in Iran port explosion rises to 46, over 1,000 injured. India stands united against Pakistan-backed terror. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah on Monday said that he wouldn't resort to cheap politics on Pahalgam terror attack or demand statehood. This is very important because Pakistan wanted Indians to fight with each other. But the unified response of the Indian political class must be making Pakistan brass think twice. That Indian resolve against Pakistan, against terrorism is unbreakable. India will not fall for the shenanigans, duplicity and its export of terrorism to India, because India stands united.
मेरे पास अल्फाज नहीं थे कि मैं क्या कह के उनके घर वालों से माफी मांगूं। ये जानते हुए कि जम्मू कश्मीर की सिक्योरिटी, जम्मू कश्मीर की सुरक्षा, जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों की चुनी हुई हुकूमत की जिम्मेदारी नहीं है, लेकिन तब भी यहां के वजीर आला की हैसियत से, यहां की टूरिज्म के मिनिस्टर की हैसियत से मैंने इन लोगों को दावत दी थी यहां आने की। मेजबान होते हुए मेरी जिम्मेदारी थी कि सही सलामत मैं इन्हें यहां से वापस भेजूं, नहीं भेज पाया। और माफी मांगने के अल्फाज नहीं थे। क्या कहता हूं उनको, उन छोटे बच्चों को जिन्होंने अपने वालिद को खून में लपेटा हुआ देखा। स्पीकर साहब, जम्मू कश्मीर की सिक्योरिटी जम्मू कश्मीर के इलेक्टेड हुकूमत की फिलहाल जिम्मेदारी नहीं है, लेकिन मैं ये मौका इस्तेमाल करके स्टेटहुड की मांग नहीं करूंगा। अब मैं किस मुंह से इस पहलगाम के वाकये को इस्तेमाल करके मरकज से कहूंगा ना अब मुझे स्टेटहुड दो? मैं क्या, मेरी क्या इतनी सस्ती सियासत है? मुझे क्या इन 26 लोगों के मरने की इतनी कम कदर है कि मैं अब मरकज से जाके कहूंगा ना चलो 26 लोग मर गए, अब मुझे स्टेटहुड दे दो? स्टेटहुड की बात हमने पहले भी की, आगे भी करेंगे, लेकिन लानत हो मुझ पे अगर मैं आज ये कह के मरकज के पास जाऊं कि ना अब 26 मर गए, अब दे दो।
In a special session, the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly passed a resolution condemning the Pahalgam terrorist attack. So the question is, which I will come to later. I'll come to these questions later. I'll straight away go to my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul and take his opening comment on it. Aditya, how unified has been our response? I think it has been splendid on part of Umar Abdullah.
You know, it's unprecedented, and you know, it makes us happy. Although it's a sad time, it's a very unfortunate time. There's anger. People are seething with rage at what has happened in Pahalgam, and everybody is united. But now it's not just the people who are united. It's the political class of India that is united, and that's what Pakistan did not expect. Pakistan wanted to divide us. Pakistan wanted communal tension. Pakistan wanted law and order situation across the country. But here is our political class standing united. You know, there are statements from the government that have come, but I want to highlight only 3 things here, Kartike. Umar Abdullah inside the J&K Assembly, not just passing the resolution condemning the Pakistani terror attack in Kashmir, but saying that my entire politics is not so cheap that I will demand statehood at such a time on the dead bodies of these 26 innocents who were riddled with bullets by Pakistani terrorists. Then, in the last 5 days, Kartike, what you have seen, and you have covered this politics for 2 decades, maybe more, but you have seen very closely the politics internally. They don't see eye to eye. You know, Owaisi, Umar Abdullah, Revant Reddy, all these people, Shashi Tharoor. But today they have united behind the government. Look at what Revant Reddy said there. He said, act like Indira Gandhi. You believe in Durga, she believed in Durga. You get back to Pakistan occupied Kashmir, get that territory back to us. This is what political class means. This is what unity means at a time of such a crisis in the country. You know, even Owaisi came out with multiple statements. It was a protest. It was a protest against the government on the Waqf bill. But yet he came out and said that there is no difference between Pakistan and ISIS. You dare to enter my country and kill my innocent citizens, that too by asking their religion, and you expect no response? There will be a response, and there will be a firm response. Kartike, on your show, I might take just 30 more seconds and request the government that isn't this opportune time while you are planning a military strike or a kinetic operation and you have already announced diplomatic measures against Pakistan to actually engage with Muslim countries also. Why not send a joint parliamentary delegation where Owaisi and Shashi Tharoor and others could be a part and convey to countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE and others that this is the reality of Islamist terrorism sponsored by Pakistan against Hindus, against all Indian citizens in Pahalgam.
Okay, let me straight away go to Ambassador Veena Sikri and then I'll go to Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Major General Sanjay Messon also continues to be with us. Ambassador Sikri, before I go to other parts of our discussion, because I have divided into four parts. In this first part, your evaluation of the Indian response from the Valley, from common people, from political actors on Pakistan, madam.
I think the response from all over India has been tremendously unifying, has been tremendously strong, and people have set aside their political differences and have come together to support the government and to support the people of India and to support the whole country in the efforts to end this kind of terrorism and terrorist attacks from Pakistan. I think it's after a long time that we are seeing this kind of unity, and the unity of purpose, unity of determination, unity of response on what is going to happen, what should happen with Pakistan. And I think that the important point about, in addition to this response, is what the government themselves decided on the first day itself, the decision, the combination of decisions on suspending, putting into abeyance the Indus Waters Treaty, on removing expelling the defense attaches, the Army, Navy and Air Force attaches. All this was meant to completely reduce the presence of the Pakistani personnel on Indian soil, and to actually tell the people of Pakistan that we kept quiet on the Indus Waters Treaty for all these decades. Although we have been objecting to the unequal nature of this treaty, we have been objecting to the way in Pakistan has been imposing their designs on us and not allowing us to do our run-of-the-river projects on the various tributaries of the Indus, and even all this, but now we have put it into abeyance. This has achieved a very important purpose because it's a very significant gesture. The people of Pakistan have been shattered by this gesture. And I think this unity shown by the Indian side, the strength of the Indian response, has created within Pakistan a huge turmoil. Because now the focus of attention is on Asim Munir. Why did he do it? There are calls for him to resign. There's some letter floating around, but there are strong calls by the union officers saying, you either leave or, we watch what we do to you. And in fact, the Prime Minister's office in Pakistan had to put out a photograph showing that Asim Munir had not gone underground, that he was in Ahmedabad, speaking to the, graduating officers and so on. So obviously this has created a huge turmoil in Pakistan. And side by side with this, if you combine with the international support for the government of India, this strong international support for the government of India, whether the Prime Minister of Japan and others, the way they've been talking to our Prime Minister, shows that they all believe that these were terrorists from Pakistan and they have killed innocent tourists in India. Unacceptable. Okay,
let me play out the bite of Asaduddin Owaisi, which Aditya was talking about.
पाकिस्तान ये कहता है कि हम न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब हमारे पास है, एटॉमिक बॉम्ब है। याद रखिए, अगर आप किसी मुल्क के अंदर जाकर मासूम लोगों को मारेंगे तो कोई भी मुल्क खामोश नहीं बैठने वाला है, चाहे हुकूमत किसी की भी हो। मगर इस तरह से आकर हमारी भारत की सरजमीन पर हमला करना और मजहब पूछकर किसी को गोली मारना, तुम कौन से दीन की बात कर रहे हो? तुम तो खवारिज से बदतर हो, तुम तो आईसिस के जानशीन हो जो हरकत किए हैं। तो मेरे अजीज दोस्तों और बुजुर्गों, हम हमारे मुल्क के वजीर आजम से भी कहेंगे कि जब कश्मीर हमारा अटूट हिस्सा है और रहेगा इंशाअल्लाह, तो कश्मीरी भी हमारा अटूट हिस्सा है। हम कभी भी कश्मीरियों के खिलाफ ये जो टीवी चैनल पर ये बड़े बड़े एंकर बैठकर गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं, बेशरम है पूरे।
That's Asaduddin Owaisi. Now the second part of the conversation is that the terrorist infrastructure in J&K is being dismantled. Houses related to terrorists are being destroyed. Security forces demolished houses of more than 10 terrorists and sympathizers. The message is clear: no sympathizer or terror supporter will be spared. Now let me take you through the names of the people who were part and parcel of it, and this is something very new. Adil Ahmed Thokar in Anantnag, Ehsanul Haq Sheikh in Pulwama, Asif Mohammed Sheikh in Pulwama, Shahid Ahmed in Shopian, Zahir Ahmed in Kulgam, Farooq Ahmed Edwa in Kupwara, Adnan Shafi Dar in Zainpura, Amir Ahmed Dar in Shopian, Zamil Ahmed in Bandipura, Amir Nazir in Tral, Harish Ahmed in Pulwama. So we have gone back and ensured that if you plan your terror activities, even in the civilian infrastructure, it will not be spared. Because the rules of the game have changed. And what have we done? At least 11 suspected terrorists and overground workers' homes were destroyed. More than 500 raids conducted in past 5 days. Hundreds of suspects detained for questioning. 5 prime suspects identified. NIA has sent samples from attack site for forensic analysis. Security forces intensify search operation in forest areas. Multi-layered cordon across Jammu division at Rajouri, Poonch, Riyasi, Udhampur, Kishtwar and Kathua. And another thing that has come out is the role of the overground workers. And the question here I ask is, how can OGWs be tackled? How are they neutralized in other theatres of war? And how can they be neutralized in the Kashmir theatre? On this, I invite Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni and subsequently Major General Sanjay Meston. So this overground worker issue has emerged very strongly. Do you think that the tact and the broader strategy needs to change in Kashmir like other theatres of war, sir?
Kartikeya, I think this is the right opportunity for the Kashmiris in the valley to come out openly against Pakistan, to stand united, and there can't be a better opportunity being given to the civil population, irrespective of whatever it is. I'm sure the way I hear Omar Abdullah, I think the fact that the political parties now stand united, it's very important that they rally the men in their state to this point, that whatever it may be, we are not with Pakistan and that we will not support Pakistan, that Pakistan is all set to ruin the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The Pakistan is not interested in giving anything other than destruction because the very fact that tourism, which had picked up to over 2 crores of people coming to the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the kind of development that was taking place, the kind of the infrastructure that has come up there, the medical colleges, the opportunities being given to the children of the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir is all indicative, and all of it could be seen in Omar's speech when he said himself that, look, this is not the time that I shall ask for statehood. This is the time to stay united, and we stay united with the government of India. I think this is the right time. This OGW is a creation of the public, because for over the years till the abrogation of Article 370 and even after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, you found kind of political voices that came up in the state that, well, khoon ki nadiyan bahengi, nobody will hold the national flag. All these talk must be banned and stopped. It's enough is enough. The political parties understand that this is the talk which, sort of seeds all these, the minds get cluttered, the minds are confused, and resulting in this kind of a thing. Then you have people like Engineer Rashid, who stand for election and win with lakhs and lakhs of votes. So this is very important, that once the public comes out in total support, you'll find this OGW, which is nothing but orchestration by the Pakistan army, which is the source of terror, which has been using terror as an instrument of state policy. And once all of it is demolished, you'll find Naya Kashmir. Naya Kashmir is something which people are looking forward to. And I'm sure, seeing what Pakistan is, this OGW has to be totally eliminated, and once and for all, there is no denying the fact.
You know, it's it's a very complicated thing. You know, General Meston, you know, even Simranjit Singh Mann, you know, there are a lot of people with very extreme ideologies have found their way in legislature. But I want this conversation to be contextualized in context of the valley, sir, because OGW network in itself is not only about ideology, sir. You people have served there in the valley. It's also about facilitating crime. It's also about facilitating terror activities. So I would like you to tell me what is the challenge of the Indian state, because you know it's not an OGW in a enemy territory, and I'm sure it's not like Gaza. So there are compulsions in terms of dealing with them. So what is the biggest challenge when it comes to the Indian army in context of this OGW?
Kartikeya, good evening. Firstly, I'll just highlight 2 points. As regards the first part which we were discussing, I think in the Indian Armed Forces, we have something known as extreme ownership, and I think Omar Abdullah, as the Chief Minister, has taken the extreme ownership, and he needs to be commended for that. The second point is Indian unity. When it is there, and it is there today, it spells disaster for Pakistan, and this is what exactly is the way to sort out Pakistan. Now, coming on to your question proper, see, the biggest challenge for the Indian Armed Forces when we function there is, rules of engagement, but more than the rules of engagement is we hardly have actionable intelligence. So therefore, how to resolve this issue? I think the first and foremost is how can we prevent people joining, being allied towards the Pakistan ideology or being part of Pakistan game, so-called underground, these sleeper cells of the OGWs. Now, how do we deal with them? The first strategy should be to prevent. Now, prevention is when the entire Kashmiris, the way they have been united now, I think that sends the strongest message. Now for these people, these OGWs, survival becomes difficult because these people can only survive when the locals, united, and they can only be targeted or identified by the locals when they know the locals united, and now they will be identified. Oblique, their reports will be given to the army. Oblique, the people over there who are operating. So there will be fear psychosis. Next strategy is, this identification and of course interception and intelligence. Now for this, the best thing is the local police there, they are very effective, the SOG. Number two is the armed forces itself. We have large number of people serving in the armed forces who are Kashmiris, including, let me tell you, in para special forces. So these people, plus the locals, they are the ones who give a lot of intelligence because they are surviving there, they are living there. So they have to keep their eyes and ears open and watch any unusual activities. And if anything is there, see, once they report, the biggest fear is that once they report, then they will be targeted by terrorists. So sometimes what happens, these people, innocent people who want to know about them, they are worried of the reprisal from these terrorists and also sometimes maybe from the security forces. So therefore, incentive has been given to them, highest order of confidentiality to be retained, their names and source should not be disclosed, and third is incentive and security. Once you start giving incentive, if you recollect, how much money was being given to these people who stole scrolls on the Indian Army, 500 rupees. So once we start giving huge incentive, people will come give intelligence, information about terrorists. And of course, last time is once we start getting this actionable intelligence, then the jail police, their SOG, bring the security forces will destroy them. And the last step what the government has not taken is destroying their houses. And this is being widely published in the media. I think that is going to be another important factor. And last but not the least, education of the women folk, because they are the ones who have to tell their children, if you do this, this is going to bring disgrace to the family, etc.
Okay. Point taken. Aditya, I mean to say, when we talk about overground workers, I see it in context of also the way Kashmiri Pandits were not helped when they have to quit. No one came for their help. How do you personally see this issue? When their houses were being burned and destroyed, there was an eerie silence.
Karthikeya, I see a lot of shock, because for the first time at such a mass level, terrorists have come, asked the religion, and when they found Hindus, they have barbarically, in a very barbaric manner, killed them. But, my community of Kashmiri Pandits have faced this time and again since 1990. We were selectively targeted, we were asked, we were, seen where we live and specifically targeted.
So someone was doing the recce, na?
100%.
So the terrorists were not doing the intelligence themselves. There was no internet there in 1991. There was no social media in 1989. I mean, someone was doing this job, na? कौन सा घर खाली है और कौन सा घर occupy होगा? I have been told that even today the Pandits can't go back and reclaim their house.
Cannot. Many of the properties have been occupied by locals. And in many areas where there are Kashmiri Pandits, there is CRPF or paramilitary outside, which has to be there. I remember when I go to Kashmir, I get security. So you can imagine, what happens. But in 1990, this was a trend. And local Kashmiri Muslims were terrorists, local Kashmiri Muslims were OGWs, and that trend continues today. I mean, there is no hiding. Those people who are coming out, even politicians, today that Kashmiris have nothing to do with it, and Kashmiris are, about this terror attack, there were only Pakistanis who came out. This is rubbish. I don't want to abuse of the national television, but this is rubbish. I mean, the reality is that the local infrastructure, the local recruitment, the local logistics are entirely planned by local Kashmiri Muslims. I mean, what the Kashmiri, a liberal Kashmiri or a Kashmiri who is educated today should do is say that we dissociate ourselves from those Kashmiri Muslims who align with Pakistani terrorism, who align with such Islamist radical thought process. We believe in India, we believe in Indian democracy. They may not believe in BJP, they may not believe in Congress. That is completely their right. That is what Indian democracy is all about. But to support them, to hide them, to defend them, to spread these half-truths and canards that no, Kashmiri Muslims are not involved in it at all. Are bhai, the terrorists from Lashkar-e-Toiba who came to Pahalgam, they were supported by all these Kashmiri Muslims. The 10 houses that have been blasted by the J&K police and army are, Kashmiri Muslims. But Kashmiri Muslims are also those who are in the J&K police, who are giving information to the J&K police to kill the same terrorists. The intelligence that the J&K police and army get is also from the same Kashmiri Muslims. I mean, how was Burhan Wanis of the world killed? Because they were molesting girls in Kashmir, the same Kashmiri Muslim girls. And the same Kashmiri Muslim girls gave intelligence to the J&K police and army that this person is molesting me, he is getting Pakistani terrorist in my house, please kill him. Absolutely. And that is the reality that needs to be told on national television, and people don't know about this.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's go to the third part. And that third part is about LOC.
Yeah.
Now, LOC has gone hot again. Hostilities along the LOCs have hit a 4-year high. Pakistan Army has opened fire at several Indian posts along LOC for the 4th straight day, violating the Feb 2021 ceasefire. So, there are a couple of issues. Should India call off this ceasefire? Does calling it off benefit India? Can it have an adverse repercussion? What does an active LOC mean? What does an active LOC mean? General Kulkarni, what does an active LOC mean for our viewers?
Karthik, at the very outset, after the Karachi agreement came the Simla agreement, and with the Simla agreement, what you hear is the LOC. Now, since the Simla agreement is I wouldn't say abrogated by Pakistan, whatever word they may have used, temporarily not in place or whatever. Therefore, there is no LOC existing on ground, and it's free for all. First. Secondly, since there is no ceasefire, the LOC has no sanctity whatsoever. It's time now. The Pakistanis stand to benefit, not India. India, in any case, we will make sure that if it is not there, this is the right time for us even to straighten it and to take all those areas which we really need to improve our defensive positions. That's the first thing. Secondly, even if the Pakistanis were with the ceasefire had pulled out troops from here, from Balochistan, fighting Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, they even moved into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Now they are on the back foot. Now they'll find against Balochistan, against Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, against Afghan Taliban, they're going to find it extremely difficult. So it is Pakistan which seems to be now on the back foot with no LOC, with no ceasefire whatsoever. And I think this is the right time for us also to strengthen it.
Kulkarni, I'm so happy. I have someone in this panel who was there in Simla when the accord was being signed in 1972 for 5 days. And I'm so happy that you use the word Simla Accord. I'm talking about Ambassador Veena Sikri. She was there. So, Madam, has LOC served India well? I know your position on Simla Accord. And do you think that this ceasefire has served India well in the last 2.5, 3 years, Madam?
Well, at times it has, but the very negotiation of the LOC, as General Kulkarni just said, did put India at a disadvantageous position at some points. And now that the LOC has been put in abeyance by Pakistan itself, it does open up opportunities, and I'm sure it's difficult to speculate, but I'm sure the government is looking at that. But I would say that this whole business of Pakistan putting into abeyance the LOC seems to be something that they are trying, and the whole purpose of this attack, of the absolutely horrendous attack on the tourists, innocent tourists, was meant to shore up the image of Asim Munir within Pakistan, because he was facing, the army is facing tremendous displeasure from the common man, saying that, the army takes over everything, they put Imran Khan in jail and they don't improve the situation for the ordinary Pakistani. So Asim Munir is spoiling for a fight. He thinks that there will be a fight, there will be, a kinetic approach, and he will be able to show the Pakistan army in a good light, and that will shore up his image. But the Pakistan people are not buying that argument at all. And in fact, they are, even after he put into abeyance not only the LOC, but put into abeyance all the agreements between India and Pakistan, which means the Indus Waters Treaty itself has been put into abeyance by the Pakistan government. So which means that they really have no cause to complain against India on this ground. But all this has put the Pakistan people in a very, very angry position, even more angry position. And I think as far as utilizing this opening that the decision of the Pakistan government has given, I won't like to comment because it's something which is, I think, very security oriented, and which we cannot really take speculative positions on it now, except that we do know that there were positions on the LOC that we were very unhappy about at that time.
Okay, General Weston, has this 2.5 years of strategic ceasefire served us well, or do you think that it was used to India's disadvantage, that LOC remains silent and they are able to push in a terrorist? If you look at the record of encounters, the Jammu heated up considerably. I think in last 12 to 14 months, the sort of encounters that took place were unheard of, General Weston.
Yeah, Karthike, absolutely. See, the activation of the LC has a lot of impact on the terrorists who are trying to infiltrate. So sometimes what happens that Pakistan has definitely taken some advantage, and I think now Pakistan themselves are trying to activate it. So my take on LC is very, very clear. Firstly, it has really no sanctity. It is not international border. And on ground, since both of us have served in these areas, you walk across, sometimes you can even cross across. So there is no IB pillars. There is nothing of this sort. We just identify it on the, once we go on the features, we identify and people tell us that this is the alignment. And when the battalion is relieved, if we keep explaining that this is so-called alignment. Now, the best part of LC is, whatever you take, you can keep it. Takers are keepers. You are deployed in an eyeball to eyeball scenario. So therefore, as on date, what General Kulkarni also mentioned, that today, since LC is now getting activated, now it suits us. I think we should go full throttle. Any place we find that this offers us a better defensive position, we can just go and occupy it. And as it is, Pakistan clearly says, no, LC, we cancel that treaty. So it's really of no meaning. For us, the border is what existed before 47, and that is the entire POK, Gilgit-Baltistan, which has got connectivity right up to Afghanistan with Wakhan corridor, 100 kilometers. That is our border. So today, Indian Army has the full advantage, full leeway, and the armed forces should be given full leeway, leverage. Any time they want to do anything, you want to capture a post, do it. And sometimes it has been done in the past also, in many of the areas, whether it was Kupwara, Uri, etc. So I think the sanctity is no more there. As it is, it was never there. And if you recollect, I think I feel now very happy that, Musharraf, when he had talked to Prime Minister Vajpayee, okay, LC should become the IB. I think it's good it has not happened. Now we should take back everything, what the original IB is. So this is a good time for India to start doing certain things along the LC to improve our defensive posture, Karthikeyan.
Okay, and a lot of people would say that this will entail a cost, but that's a different discussion. And because of national security issues, we have decided also not to go into the tactical issues, because that might jeopardize India's security in terms of movement of troops, in terms of the visuals we are getting. We have decided we will not show it on TV. We will not discuss it on TV. We will keep our discussion broad based on themes. And that's what we have decided, because it helps India's national security. So now to the last part of it, and Ambassador Sikri, and I want you here, which is about India's reputation, the support which India is getting globally on this issue. I think the world is standing with India in its war on terror, even as Pakistan has been isolated, though it gets support from its friend China. Members of Indian diaspora are leading protests against the Pahalgam attack in UK, US, France and Germany, unprecedented, organized all over the world. These protests have taken place in London, these protests have taken place in Vancouver, and I would say that though the certain gestures of the Pakistani diplomats were distasteful, And I wouldn't like to go into that, especially in context of Aditya Abhinandan. But I'm sure Pakistanis would be very, very surprised by these global protests.
Of course. There are protests happening in several countries, from United States to Australia to Germany to several parts of Europe, in fact, and other countries. In Nepal, in fact, a lot of Nepali local people came across. Many of us have not spoken about, but apart from the 25 Indian nationals who are killed, there is one Nepali also, Sandeep Niwane, who has been killed in this attack. And Nepalese nationals came outside the Pakistani mission in Kathmandu and protested. And there is, in fact, Kartikeya, the larger debate of, if we compare the situation today from 2016 when the Uri attack took place, and with 2019 when Pulwama took place, I think the global support for India has only increased, not just in India's stature globally, but on terrorism, on cooperation, and on international standing that India has. You know, Prime Minister has been talking about, he's a peacenik. He's been talking about, how there can be collaboration, how there can be diplomacy, how this is not an era of war and solutions cannot be found in a battlefield. I mean, during the Russia-Ukraine war or during the Israel-Hamas crisis, he hasn't chosen a side exactly. He has condemned terrorism, but always pushed for peace, dialogue and diplomacy. And that's why we see that there is, for the first time, important and critical statements coming in from United States, where Tulsi Gabbard says that if you strike and hunt down the terrorists, US will stand behind you. Kash Patel's come out. Donald Trump says that this has been going on for thousands of years. I think India and Pakistan can deal with it. He will not interfere. What was the statement earlier? When there was John Kerry and Biden and Obama and of course Trump in his earlier avatar, they always said that we can be the third party. We can mediate. We can have the dialogue process, just like Saudi Arabia and Iran have offered to mediate between India and Pakistan. So I think completely, Kartikeya, that there are massive protests underway globally. There is a clear recognition of Islamist terrorism because it is knocking on the doors of Europe and United States also. They've realized the repercussions and consequences of the same Islamist terrorism.
I think there's a breaking news coming in. There's a breaking news coming in. And this breaking news is about the Pakistan conference. There's an outrage over Pakistan conference at Harvard. Pak delegates, including Pak Minister of Finance, attending it. Harvard students have written to US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They're saying that revoke visas of all Pakistani delegates to conference, revoke visas of all Pak officials traveling to the US, don't host representatives of state that promotes terrorists, call for a moral clarity for America in the face of terrorism. This is a breaking news. These are both the letters which I have reproduced. Aditya, can you just take us through this news, and then we can take a opening statement from Ambassador Sikri. I think that's a big news that has come in.
It's a big development really at a time when India is grappling with this terrorist attack and looking at the reactions, and the entire country is seething with rage and emotional about this entire episode. We came to know about this episode of a Pakistan conference that's being hosted by the Harvard University in United States. Now imagine Pakistan conference being held at a time when Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism, when Pakistan is killing innocent people. What right do Pakistanis really have to have such kind of a conference at a global university of the stature of Harvard? Now there is, of course, students of the same Harvard, Surabhi Tomar and Abhishek Chaudhary, who have written multiple letters to the Harvard authorities and said that you need to cancel this event, you need to end visa assistance and help that you are granting to the Pakistani government officials and others who are coming here. They also demanded that issue a public statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack and support for victims of the religious-based violence. This is a huge development. These are letters that have come out from Indian students in Harvard to the Harvard authority. The letter also says, provide emotional and institutional support to affected students through the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging. So this is a very significant development. And Kartikeya, let us put this in context. What's been happening over the last few years in US universities, a lot of anti-India propaganda, particularly on Kashmir. On Israel, of course, where the Israel government has reacted, Donald Trump has also said that he would stop funding for several of these universities and act in a manner where anybody taking law into their own hands, anybody violating the US government norms in these universities will be arrested, will be deported. And there are cases where people have been deported.
Let me quickly take a reaction from Ambassador Sikri. Madam, these are places of learning, good places. Wharton, Harvard, Stanford. But why do these liberal laws get weaponized against countries like India? Why in the name of liberalism, liberal politics or democratic norms, they fail to distinguish between people who are actually causing providing ideological framework to terror activities in country like us, and not seeing it from our perspective and seeing from the perspective of human rights? Why this conflation happens, madam?
Well, this is something that has come into UN universities, American universities, and even Oxford and Cambridge for the last several decades. And this is something that we have to, as India, as Indian citizens, as Indian students, and I'm so glad our students are speaking out, that we have to take it up very strongly and not allow it to continue. And I must say that one of the additional points of outrage about what is happening at Harvard University is that this is happening at an institute sponsored by none other than Lakshmi Mittal. I mean, this is an institute led by Lakshmi Mittal, one of India's leading lights in business, and he has sponsored this entire institute. First of all, there was always anger that why on earth is he sponsoring an institute at Harvard and calling it a South Asian institute instead of an Indian institute of studies, because there are very few institutes that study Indian, approach to issues, and in the garb of South Asia, they plug lines which are not in India's interest. And secondly, the very fact that this conference on Pakistan is being allowed to go ahead at a time when the world, as you said quite correctly, and Mr. Ditakol also mentioned quite correctly, that the world is with India because they know that India is right, that these are Pakistani terrorists who have come in and attacked innocent tourists in Pahalgam. Now, Pakistan is being very general and vague and saying, oh, we want an inquiry and we want Russia and China to conduct the inquiry, and that's the kind of area they're talking about. But actually, the world is not waiting for all of that. The world has given its verdict. They know that these are terrorist attacks. They know that they're supporting India. Why is Harvard University bucking that trend? I think we should take it up very strongly, and we should really protest against what they're doing, but we should also protest with Lakshmi Mittal and say, why on earth is he allowing this to happen? So this too has to come into this point, because this is a very important issue that has disturbed a lot of people. Throughout the day today, there have been a lot of claimants on this, and a lot of people feeling strongly on this aspect.
Okay. Your opening comments on this, General Kulkarni, and then I'll go to General Meston.
As regards the Harvard is concerned, the Pakistani?
Absolutely, sir.
Definitely. I think it's time that we call this bluff. Pakistanis, if I understand, I'm sure their master would know, they would pay, I don't know what amount to some of these people only to create a narrative in favor of Pakistan. Even going up to Senate, going up to anywhere and everywhere, and creating a kind of an ecosystem that favored only the Pakistanis and going anti-India. I'm glad these kind of things will be called up. And even now, when Trump himself is taking very strong steps in the US, where they ever spoke for Palestinians, they were all thrown out of the various universities. So these kind of a thing, universities mustn't be utilized and used for these kind of purposes, irrespective of whatever it may be. A democracy, yes, but they are there to study, and therefore they must not even, be encouraged to host these kind of events over there. And definitely, I'm glad that such a thing has happened. Having said that, just on that ceasefire thing that we were on the similar agreement that we were talking about, let it be clear, Pakistan never adhered to the similar agreement, right? I'm sure the ambassador will agree, because all disputes were to be settled between the two of us bilaterally. It was never ever done bilaterally. Pakistan continued to do it internationally, and therefore I think the similar agreement in any case was defunct for a very long time, except that there and where the ceasefire, like in Siachen, the ceasefire is holding since 2003. So that's some good step, but most of them, I think Pakistan must be blamed for it. Yeah.
Very quickly, very warm welcome to Rami Niranjan Desai. Thank you, Rami, for joining me. You have come straight at a point of time when we are breaking a big news on how a Pakistan conference is being organized in Harvard. A quick comment from General Meston, then I'll come to you, because this was not something part of our show, but this news we are breaking right now is very, very important. How a site for learning is being weaponized, and those people who, in the name of I would say human rights, are trying to create a wrong impression of what's happening in Kashmir. It's not a human rights issue, it's an issue of terrorism. It's wrongly debated, wrongly put out. General Meston.
Yeah, absolutely, Karthikeyan. I think education institutes all over the world, they should not be encouraged to do all this nonsense of, supporting Pakistan. And I think India should today go full throttle and get Pakistan declared as a terrorist state, and simultaneously regarding a diplomatic front, and we may even send a whole party delegation to Middle East and all these countries to start telling the world that the Pakistan is a sponsor of state terrorism. It has affected the whole globe, epicenter of terrorism, and therefore students need to be on watch, and no delegation of Pakistan should be allowed to even come to any country like this Pak conference of 2025. And even Harvard, I think we need to take up with them how the hell they are talking about hosting a Pak delegation for this 2025. So India needs to go full throttle. I think all possible pressures should continue on Pakistan 24/7.
Okay. Rami, I was just remembering you as breaking the news because you told me that day, how far are these foreign partners willing to walk with us? You told me this. This conference which is going to take place in Harvard and the protest letters that are being sent brings me to this issue, how far they are willing to walk with us on the issue of terrorism, because we are the victims. We are the victim.
Absolutely, Karthikeya. We are the victim this time. We have been victims before, but there has been a complete negation of what we have been through year after year over the decades. Unfortunately, it's only the West that we look towards for any amount of legitimacy, and we have been let down time and again. Universities in the West have been used for breeding grounds for political vendettas, to settle scores, to set a narrative. And we have seen that during the Israel-Hamas fight, we have seen that during Black Lives Matters, we've seen that so many times, even during what we went through with the Citizenship Amendment Bill. I remember that this was world news. Everybody was talking about it and peddling fake narratives, utter lies. However, this time round, where is the coverage of what has happened in Kashmir across the world? Where is the coverage in the Western media that seems to be obsessed with India? I mean, a Pakistan delegation being led by senior officials at prestigious universities. What does that tell you? And this is exactly what I meant. I wasn't trying to be the voice of
you have a point. I read the NYT article. It's still plastered there. India preparing for a military strike. No one has written an article how Pakistan organized the Pahalgam strike or how these people were connected to Pakistan. I'm talking about the NYT. You can actually go to your mobile phone. It's still there.
Absolutely, Karthikeya, and here's my point. This is not going to be something that is going to come to a conclusion all of a sudden. No, there's a lot more to be done, because I think as Indians we've had enough. But here is me trying to be self-critical. Do we have the stomach any longer to see this through? We sort of turn onto ourselves when a fight turns into a war. So as to say that if this conflict escalates the way we are thinking that it will, it won't be too long that from people from within our country, organizations from within our country will turn around on us and say, oh, well, it's time to come to the negotiating table. Oh, well, it's time to settle this, So, I have to say that I give very little credit to the lip service that the West has become used to giving us. I think whatever we need to do, we need to go at it alone. We need to be confident, and we need not worry about what the world thinks of us or what the global state says.
Ambassador Sikri, I think you're the best person to answer this.
Well, I think, let me tell you, that we have to reflect what the people of India think. And right now, the people of India are united on this question. There cannot be a better time than now to take this abroad, and we should have no hesitation. I can tell you that after the Shimla agreement was signed, for decades we tried to keep our side of the bargain and say, no, we will only talk about it bilaterally, we will not raise it with anybody else. And we kept quiet. In many international fora, we just kept quiet. And the Pakistanis took full advantage of that, because they did not observe the Shimla agreement. involvement in anything except in the breach, and they were taking it up vigorously abroad with every forum, and of course at home as well. Now, having lost that advantage, we found ourselves in a position that many international media, etc., had been fully convinced of the Pakistan point of view and had not been even spoken to by the Indian point of view, because in our minds we were observing the Shimla Agreement. Now, I think in the last 10 years we have seen that all this kind of fake narrative is not being allowed, and we are vigorously responding to any reference to Kashmir, whether in the UN or UNSCAP or any international forum. We are responding to it vigorously and not letting it go by default anymore. Now, on this occasion, when we have this absolutely dastardly tragedy in Pahalgam, we have to take it up even more vigorously, and we have to take it up, and these occasions are the ones to slam organizations like Harvard, who are trying to give this platform to Pakistan to give their fake narrative. And in the name of academic freedom, they're giving Pakistan a false platform to peddle their fake narrative, and of course we will not be there to defend it. So our students are absolutely in the right to oppose it, and I sincerely hope that there will be a decision to ban this conference and not allow it to happen. And in fact, those people who are coming, their visas should be revoked. And I think, as I said, once again, I'm saying that even our own industrialists who have given millions of their money to setting up an institution like this must step in and tell Harvard University that they cannot misuse the money that they have given for this wrong purpose. So this is the time to call out the narrative on all these issues. And I think that this calling out of the narrative is starting. It's starting very vigorously, and we're not going to keep quiet on it this time. I'm sure of that.
Rami, what's your assessment? Is it going to be the lonely walk?
Well, I think it's always going to be the lonely walk for us. I think what has changed from before is that we found our voice and we counter these things, things that situations and narratives and lies that were peddled for far too long, which we did not even bother countering. I think we have media houses, we have independent journalists, we have researchers, analysts now who can stand on their own and really counter the fake narratives that are peddled. However, I think in the day and age of social media, in the day and age where we hold all moral values associated to anything to do with human rights as primary, what happens is that any sort of assertive active action taken from India is always seen as aggression, and that is what is going to be used against us. And I think that is what we need to be prepared for. And I think via channels of yours, Karthikeya, we need to prepare the public for the fact that this is not going to be an easy fight. This is not going to be an easy narrative.
Is that the word? Cost-free? Because every strong action will have a cost.
Absolutely, and it'll have a cost. And if things escalate and there will be some amount of collateral damage, I assume, in whatever way possible. I think we need to stand by our government, we need to stand by our forces, and we need to have the stomach for it. I think enough is enough, wherein we turn around and, our hearts melt at some point and we start saying, we've done enough. No, we haven't done enough till we bring the perpetrators to the rightful end of this conflict.
Aditya, the last remark from you, your assessment. Are we looking at something bigger than Balakotanuri?
Well, before I say, there's a breaking news that has just come in. Reuters has just broken exclusive news report saying that the Pakistan Defense Minister says military incursion by India is imminent. So Pakistan is building this narrative. This is a big breaking news that Reuters has just flashed all across their global headlines, that the Pakistani Defense Minister Khwaja Asif has said that an attack by India is imminent. And that's why we see, Karthikeya, that over the last few days, there's a lot of air activity that's happening in Pakistan. And that means transport aircrafts from Rawalpindi and neighboring areas are moving towards the border areas with a lot of equipment, with a lot of, defense cargo. Yesterday, we saw a lot of, defense aircrafts coming from Turkey to Pakistan as well. So, personally, if you ask me I'll give you a short answer. I don't see a war happening, certainly. I see a limited strike by India. I see also a limited confrontation happening, but all will depend on how that confrontation is handled by India and Pakistan and how the global players actually come into the picture.
I would just add to Aditya, I've really run short of time. Below the threshold level, I think that's the key word.
Yes.
We will have a strike, but below the threshold level, that's something which we understand. But rest we will not talk about because that's not in India's interest. Thank you all of you for joining me on this show. I will be back at the same time tomorrow at 7 p.m. Good night.
What a save! What a save!